Timberwolves president of basketball operations, David Kahn. Who is he?
Tell us exactly about this European Blake Griffin.
I don't know. I think Blake Griffin is American Habbas.
The Charlotte Hornets select Kobe Bryant.
The Milwaukee Bucks select Dirk Nowitzki from Würzburg, Germany.
I'm Ricky Rubio. I'm not like anybody else, but
It ain't the end of the world. We're going to see each other again. I mean, I'll send him some flowers or some fruit.
All right, and on the line now we have a Goodman over with CBS now. He's going to help us out with breaking down the new Pac-12. Get used to saying that, folks. So it's the Pac-12 now instead of the Pac-10. How's everything going tonight, Jeff?
I'm good. How you doing?
Doing pretty good here, and it's kind of ironic as you actually put up your preview for the Pac-12 is what you said the sixth best conference in college basketball today, right?
Yeah, good timing for both of us here.
Yeah, sounds good. And so let's go ahead and just real quick recap that. I want everyone to go to CBSSports.com into the college basketball section. It's the #1 running story on there for that. Check out where he has the all first teams, all the returning quick facts. It's actually a great read, real quick to go through so you can get yourself ready for Pac-12 basketball. But give a quick recap on what you think the Pac-12 is going to look like this year at the top.
Well, I mean, I think it's going to be okay again. I think we're going to have to wait one more year for it to be, Arizona and UCLA to be what we've been used to seeing out of those programs over the years. But I think those two will certainly compete for the league title, as will Cal and Washington. I think you're going to have a four-horse race where any one of those four schools can win the league this year. Certainly you got Arizona dealing without Derek Williams, and they've got some good pieces, but I think they're going to be led by their freshman guards, Josiah Turner and Nick Johnson. I think certainly you look at UCLA and question kind of their guard play, and Lazarus Jones is going to have to be the guy for them at the point guard spot, and he's going to have to make another jump. But their front line is terrific. Reeves Nelson, Josh Smith, and now the Ware twins transferring in and being eligible from North Carolina. It's going to be about guard play for them. Then you got Cal that returns three really good veteran players, three guys that not enough people know about. Obviously, Gutierrez, Krabby, and Harper Camp. And the final team, I think, is kind of the wild card here. Washington, to me, I've got them ranked fourth, but honestly, they could just as easily win this thing. My guy, the guy that I'm going to kind of hang my hat on as, the guy that people don't know enough about that's going to be terrific this year is Terrence Ross. Love him. Absolutely love him. Of anybody in the country, I think he's got the upside. I would take him in the top 10 of the NBA draft today, believe it or not, if I were drafting. So Terrence Ross, Tony Roten, talented, got to play under control a little bit. But then again, Lorenzo Romar doesn't mind having guys that are a little bit wild. And so Roten will fit right in, and you got Aziz Ndiaye in the middle. You got a shooter in Wilcox, and Abdul Ghadi's back, healthy, running the team. Their starting five might be better than anybody else's. I just kind of question their depth a little bit. But those four, to me, stand out.
Now, Washington saw some extreme losses, but like you said, they reload the talent. Romar doesn't have their team really miss too much of a beat. They'll be down, but not, great like they've been. Washington State loses equal amount of talent, you can probably argue, when it comes from prospect perspective. Which team do you think has the better chance of rebounding? You got Washington State as 10th, so obviously you're thinking they're going to take a dip. How come Washington gets to rebound so quickly, though?
Well, I mean, they've done a good job, Romar, of keeping the local guys home, and certainly with Tony Roten, he's done that. With Terrence Ross, he's kept him, fairly local, and I just think Roten's is good, if not better, than Isaiah Thomas. Matthew Bryan Manning was a terrific talent, never quite lived up to his billing. And to be honest, Terrence Ross is going to step right in for Justin Holiday, and that's an upgrade. So I really don't think they lose a beat. They get Gaddy back, who's a pass-first point guard, which is kind of what they need with this team. So they got two guys who can handle it with Gaddy and Tony Roten. And again, Ndiaye is just that big, strong, shot-blocking, rebounding athlete. So I don't see a whole to be honest, if I had to do it all over again, I did this 2 weeks ago. The more I look at it, the more I say to myself, I would pick Washington maybe to win that league right now.
When they lose a little bit of the buffoonery, I guess you can say. They had a lot of off-the-court issues, which probably won't be plaguing them too much this year. Now,
that's right. Overton being gone and Isaiah Thomas, two kind of loose cannons.
Yeah, exactly.
Is a fair statement with those guys.
Now with Arizona and Washington were neck and neck all season. Arizona ended up winning the regular season. Washington won that great game at the end there to win the actual conference. Arizona, you though have sliding down to 2. Why wouldn't they be the favorites coming in despite losing Derek Williams? They still have a very talented, deep roster.
Yeah, but Derek Williams just did so much for him, and now you're talking about, again, them being dependent on Josiah Turner and Nick Johnson. I just think it's going to take those guys some time. And I just think they've got pieces. Look, hey, Kevin Parham, we don't know if he's going to be back, when he's going to be back, if he's going to be healthy. He was going to be one of their key guys. I mean, I think he might be their most talented returning player. You look, Kyle Fogg is a good piece. Solomon Hill's a good piece. But what do they have? I mean, honestly, what do they really have? It's a year from now that Arizona is going to be a powerhouse when they bring in, Grant Jarrett and Brandon Ashley and potentially Caleb Tarzewski. Then you're going to talk about Arizona being back. But to be honest, they have less talent to me than probably maybe all three of Washington, Cal, and UCLA right now.
It's a fair statement. And Arizona also with Gabe York and maybe even Chris Thomas. I mean, they got a lot of talent coming in with the returning guys that they could potentially bring. So it's a fair assessment. Now, the other side of the coin out here in Arizona is Arizona State. Traditionally more of a football school, but where are they right now as a team that could be a competitive basketball team, or are they just doomed to just be at the cellar?
I don't know if they're doomed to be in the cellar because there's still some teams down the bottom right now that they can beat or certainly compete with. Trent Lockett will have to be the guy. And last I heard, Jahi Carson still isn't eligible. I don't know if that's happened over the last few days and I missed it. But Carson's still not cleared by the NCAA. And if they don't have him, they're in some major trouble. And you've got other teams like Washington State, Colorado, and Utah, kind of the new additions for the Pac-12 that Arizona State can compete with, and they can compete with Oregon State and Stanford and Oregon. I just don't see enough talent up and down that roster for Herb Sendek to finish in the top half of that league.
Now, with the newcomers, you briefly mentioned them. Colorado and Utah, you have slated as 11 and 12. Colorado does lose a lot of talent, so that's a fair assessment of them, and Utah's never been a traditional college powerhouse. Are they going to shock anybody, or is that probably where they belong?
Yeah, they're not shocking anybody this year. I think, in a year or two, I could see, hey, Tad Boyle's done a good job. He's a Mark Turgeon type guy. He worked for him. Very similar. Will probably make more out of less down the road once he gets his own guys in there, and he's doing a pretty good job recruiting so far. But it's still going to take some time for Colorado or Utah to be players in the Pac-12.
Now, to move back up to the Pacific Northwest is you have Oregon and Oregon State. Oregon's always been a good, not great team. They transfer over Tony Woods, who's, I guess, a wild card. He's a very talented player that's had his missteps off the court and whatnot. Is he enough to potentially have them compete with the teams that have the big men like Washington, like UCLA, and be a competitive team towards the upper half of the Pac-12?
Tony Woods, he's very enigmatic. I've seen him play for years, and he can look great one day and look like a complete dud the next, and that's the most difficult part. It's going to be up to Dana Altman to kind of figure out which buttons to push. Maybe it was a wake-up call for Woods at Wake Forest and basically being thrown out of off the team and out of the school for the incident he had with his girlfriend. But certainly if you put Tony Woods, and once DeVoe Joseph gets eligible and you put him with Jabari Brown, those are at least three guys you can go to war with and say, hey, you know what? They have as much talent as just about anybody we're playing against. The key, again, for Dana Altman is you're just adding too many quick fix pieces, with a guy like DeVoe Joseph, with Olu Ashalu, who transferred. He's a one-year guy as well. I'm not sure which direction it's going to go. Too many people have Oregon right now challenging for some of these schools at the top of the Pac-12. I don't see it. Usually when you do this with a team and you add these guys, these one-year guys, or half a year as DeVoe Joseph is, usually it comes back to bite you in the you-know-what.
Yeah, and like you said, they're a team that they look good on paper. I mean, no one will argue with the names they have on paper, as they look like a pretty quality team. Now, you mentioned Terrence Ross. You're putting your name on him, and you're kind of giving him the stamp of approval as a breakthrough player. He's a little bit more on the radar, I guess you can say, than some others. Who is someone in the Pac-12 that's not a recognizable name that's going to shock a lot of people from a talent perspective? May not be the best college player in the world, but is going to really step up, and not a lot of people know about him.
Dwight Powell. I'll give you him from Stanford. Big. He's athletic. He's strong. That's a guy that I think will eventually surprise some people. I'm trying to think of who else in these league, on these teams that is a guy. I mean, I love the kid Aiden at Washington State because he can fill it up. I don't think he's necessarily an NBA guy, but trying to think of who else. Roberto Nelson, maybe. He's had his issues over the first year and a half, 2 years at Oregon State. He's really, really talented. I mean, if he can get going, there's a guy that can really change what's gone on at Oregon State and Corvallis.
Now, before I let you go here and we get off of the line here, you have Arizona. You have the Pac-12 ranked as the 6th best conference in the country. Yep. They showed well in the tournament after being ranked probably in that same field at the end of the season last year. They lose a lot of dynamic personalities, though. Can they have shocking runs like that in the NCAA tournament with the losses of Isaiah Thomas and Derek Williams, who are really just torchbearers and just carried their teams?
Well, I mean, again, UCLA, if they get good guard play, absolutely they could go far because they've got a front line that can match up with just about anybody. Arizona, I didn't see it last year, so who knows? I don't see it this year either. I see it a year from now. Cal, if Harper Camp is healthy, they've obviously got a hell of a coach in Mike Montgomery. They could make a little bit of a run. And like I said, the wild card here is Washington. I really, again, I can't say it enough how high I am on Terrence Ross and on the potential of the Huskies. But again, I do worry about Tony Roten and whether he can kind of, keep his act together, be a team guy, play the right way. If he does, though, man, I'm telling you, this starting five could be as good as just about anybody's.
I don't think anyone's really going to argue with that. Let your editors get on there and rewrite that and move them up a couple of slots.
I know. I'd probably do it all over again. But again, 1 through 4, you can probably put in a hat right now. Nobody knows. It'll probably depend on injuries, on chemistry, those type of things.
All right. Well, again, that's Jeff Goodman with CBS Sports. Check out the conference breakdowns. He has the conference countdown. Number 6 is the Pac-12. So everyone out there in Arizona want to see where their team lands, read it there and hear it here. Thanks again, Jeff.
You got it.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Valley, that was Jeff Goodman of CBSSports.com. Make sure to check him out on Twitter. I'm sure you already are. If you're following me, you have to be following him. #1 writer in college hoops today, opinion or fact, however you want to take that, at Goodman CBS on Twitter. So Twitter/Goodman CBS is where you can follow him on Twitter. Check him out on CBSSports.com as well to get his latest news and notes. Again, the Pac-12 preview is up, and he has them ranked with all kinds of fun little factoids in there and things to check out. What do you think of his assessment? He's not the biggest fan of the Pac-12 and doesn't necessarily think Arizona is a shoo-in to repeat. The best lie detector is a full college season, so we'll see how it plays out, and definitely appreciate once again Jeff jumping on the podcast with us to talk college hoops here for ArizonaSports.com. Good luck to all the teams in the Pac-12, and I look forward to speaking to you guys throughout the season. Have a great rest of your week.
But I also felt very strongly that once the 14-year-old hit the dais with us, we were dead. We were just dead. There was no way. This league has a habit, I'm just going to say habit, of producing some pretty incredible storylines.